Jupyter Notebook is an interactive IDE that comes along with the installation of Anaconda's distribution of Python. Let us open up the Jupyter Notebook by navigating to a folder. So in my case, let me go to the E drive and Python tutorials, and I want to open up the Jupyter Notebook with the root folder as this one. So I will have to open up the command prompt by typing cmd in the address bar, and this will open up the command prompt with the folder where we want to open the Jupyter Notebook. So to open up a Jupyter Notebook, we simply have to type Jupyter space notebook. The Jupyter Notebook is basically a web application that opens up in your default web browser. Let us create a new file by clicking on New Python 3. And let us save the file as Jupyter space intro. Let's click on rename. If you observe, there's a file which is created in this root folder where you started the Jupyter Notebook called Jupyter space intro.ipython notebook. So this is the file which we are currently working on. What runs behind this web application is something called kernels. Kernels are separate processes started by the notebook web application that runs users' code in a given language. In our case, it is Python 3, and it returns back the output back to the notebook web application. So basically, whenever we write a code, let's say for example, I'll say print hello world. So when we execute this cell by clicking on Shift plus Enter or clicking on this run icon, let me click Shift plus Enter. So what happens is the kernel executes the code, this piece of code, in Python 3 and returns back the output. The code cells may look like that you can only write only one line in it, but the fact is that you can write as many lines in a single code cell and execute. For example, let me write a equal to 5, b equal to 6, and c equal to a plus b. And let me write print sum equal to C. So you can write as many lines in a single cell. The menu bar has a lot of options. For example, if you click on File, we have something called Download As, where we can download the notebook in different formats such as HTML, PDF, or even a text file. I personally prefer downloading the notebook in the PDF format. In the cell menu, we have something called run all above. Sorry, in the cell menu we have something called run all above, run all below. So basically you can use this to run all the cells. Let me try to show you an example here. So let me click on kernel and restart and clear output. Okay. So let me have one more line here, print I'll call it as line 3. So let's look at the first option. If you click on cell and run all, what happens is all the cells will be executed. So you see all the output together. Let me restart and clear output. So this time I will choose, I'll click on the second cell and I will click on kernel and cell and run all above. What happens is all the cells above this particular cell will be executed. So if you observe, only the first cell got executed. So the same way, if we click on run all below, all the cells below a given cell will be executed. Okay. If you want to insert a new cell, you can basically use, let's say for example, if you want to insert a new cell below a given cell, you can use the plus icon. Okay. So let's assume if you want to insert a cell above this particular cell, then you have to click on the menu and cell option and insert option, insert cell above. So here you can insert both above or below a given cell. So the tool also offers a lot of features. The toolbar offers a lot of features such as adding new cell, saving the file, deleting the cell, making a copy of it, and move the cells above or below. So it offers a lot of useful features. So let's now look at the Markdown. Let's now look at some of the basics of Markdown. Okay. Markdown cells are, so basically you have three types of cells: the code cell, the markdown cell, rawnbconvert. Heading, nobody uses it. I think it's going to be deprecated soon. So mostly there are three types: the code cell, the markdown cell, and the rawnbconvert cell. So we'll look at we know what is code cell, right? Whatever the code that we write here, the Python code, is basically should be a code cell. For documentation purposes, you can either use Markdown or rawnbconvert. The Markdown cells help in documenting the code. It helps you to add headings, text in italic, bold, add images, and a lot more inside your Jupyter notebook. So let's try adding some headers first. So to be able to convert a cell to a Markdown cell, you can choose the Markdown option here. And let's create a heading 1 here. Heading 1 is the heading with the maximum size. So you need to have a hash and then a space. So we have a heading 1. So let's try writing a heading 2. So we'll have to choose it as a Markdown cell. We'll say heading 2. Similarly, we can write heading 3. You can go on and write heading 4 and heading 5 as well, which are smaller compared to that of heading 3. So if you don't want to add any formatting to the text, you can use this rawnbconvert. For example, if you want to add some sample code that need not be executed, you can use rawnbconvert instead of Markdown. Let's see an example here. Let me write a code here. I'll write sum a comma b. I'll say return a plus b. Now if you don't want this cell to be a code cell, or if you want that to be a documentation, a sample code, not to be executed, right? So you can basically use Markdown or rawnbconvert. So we prefer using rawnbconvert because if you use Markdown cell, it's going to remove the formatting. So I'll try to show what I mean to say. I click on Markdown cell and I execute. What happens is all the new lines and the indentations are gone. So to keep the formatting, we have to use rawnbconvert. So I'll use rawnbconvert and shift plus enter. You see the formatting stays the same. One more interesting thing is that we can write HTML as well in the Markdown cells. Let's try adding headings using the HTML syntax. So I'll write h1 and close the brackets and h1 tag as well. Inside I'll write heading 1. So I have to convert that to Markdown cell. Now this is an HTML syntax and it works just like the way it works for the hash. Now hash followed by something is a Markdown syntax. This is basically the HTML syntax. Let's try adding a heading 2. Let's convert that to Markdown and execute. So we have heading 1 and heading 2. We can highlight text as bold by surrounding it with double stars. So let me try to show an example. Let's write some text as this text is bold, and we'll also write this is normal text. Okay, let's convert that to Markdown and execute. You can see that the text that was surrounded by double stars was converted to a bold text. Similar way, if you want to convert some part of text into italics, you have to surround it with single stars. So this is an italic text. Now using the HTML syntax, let's try to add some unordered list. So the unordered list, will surround it with the UL tags, and let's have the list li tags. I'll say item 1, close the list tag. Let's have another 2-3 items. So we have item 2 and item 3. Let's execute this. So it should be a Markdown cell. Let's execute this, and you can see there are bullet points, right? So let's assume if you don't want this round bullets, you want square bullets, right? So you can basically add that inside a style tag. Let's convert to the Markdown cell, and we can add a style tag here. I'll say style equal to list style type will be square. So now you have the square bullet points. Now let's try to add some links inside a cell. So again, we'll be using the HTML syntax to add links. We should be using the anchor tags here, a tags. So I'll write a href equal to https google.com, and let's add some text as well. This is a link, and the link name will be Google. Let's close the anchor tag and convert the cell to Markdown. So now we have the link. If you click on the link, it should navigate to google.com, right? So that's how you add links in your cells. It's the basic HTML, right? So next thing that we want to do is we want to add images inside our Jupyter notebook. So in this folder data, I have some image, I have Python logo. I want to import this logo and show this logo inside my Jupyter notebook. So to be able to do that, we have to write, we'll again make use of the HTML syntax. We'll write img source equal to, inside the data folder we have something called python logo.png, and yeah, that should be it. Let's execute this, convert this to Markdown and execute. Now we have images inside our Jupyter notebook. So next, let us try constructing tables in Jupyter notebook with the help of HTML syntax. So let's write table, opening and closing tags. Table will have headers. Let's have the first column as name and the second column as age. So let's have 2 or 3 rows, rows for our table. So the first name that we're gonna have is, let's call him Sam, and we have to surround this with a table row. So the Sam age, we'll keep it as 23. Let's have another row for another person. We'll call it as John, and let's keep his age as 24. Now let's convert it to Markdown cell and see if the table works. So we have the table here. So you can also write the table in using the Markdown syntax. So let me also try to show that. So we have to write this pipe symbol and age, name and age, and then we should have this line, and let's have 2 rows. Sam should be 23 and John to be 24. So let's convert it to Markdown cell and then execute. So it works in the same way. So you can either write the table in the HTML syntax or using the Markdown syntax. Now let's try adding a video into the cell, right? So I have a video inside data folder and it's called as components.mp4 or something. So let's try to import this video and see how that works. So we have to write video controls source equal to data slash components.mp4. Style, let me give the zoom as 40% so that let me execute this and check. So we know that, so we can now see that the video is being displayed. You can play the video inside your cell. We will understand what components are. Okay. Now let's try to add some mathematical equations in our Jupyter notebook. So in order to create an equation, we have to surround it with double dollar sign. So let's try adding one mathematical equation, which is a plus b the whole square equal to a square plus b square plus 2ab. Okay, we have to surround it between $2 sign. Let's execute this. So we see that we have the equation a plus b the whole square equal to a square plus b square plus 2ab. Let's try to add another complicated equation which involves the summation symbol and numerator and denominator and something like that. So I will write this equation. We have to encapsulate in between surround it in between the double dollar sign. So I'll write e power x equal to the summation function and the summation function goes from I equal to 0 to infinity, and then let's have a fraction from the numerator and the denominator, 1 divided by I factorial. Okay, and then multiplied by some x to the power of I. Okay, let's execute this and check. So we have e power x equal to summation function I equal to 0 to infinity, 1 divided by factorial multiplied by x to the power of I. So with this we can end this video. I hope that this video gives you a fair amount of introduction to the features inside Jupyter Notebook.